The NFL is back, and what an eventful first Sunday it was. There were several big things that happened, such as the Ravens picking up where they left off in 2019 regular season-wise, the Packers absolutely dismantling the Vikings' young secondary, and Drew and the gang beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There were a few other things that took me by surprise, like the seemingly tanking Jaguars pulling out a win over Indy, and the football team beating the Eagles by double digits. Those were all notable things, and we're going to discuss some of the biggest takeaways from NFL Sunday. Now, if you guys are relatively new to the channel, we do this every Monday, and as always, before we get started, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. And before we do begin, I do want to say these aren't rankings of takeaways or implying something is bigger than another. And the first topic we will discuss is the young Cardinals beating the 49ers in their place to start the year. While everyone in the media was hyping up the Cardinals all offseason, and rightfully so, I do understand the excitement, I was a little weary of them and how Kyler would do in year 2, mainly because I thought the media was trying to force his success too much, like they did with Baker Mayfield last year. Now, Kyler very well could have a sophomore slump, as we are just one game into the season, but as of now they are looking great. Kyler had over 320 total yards, DeAndre Hopkins had a career-high 14 catches in his Cardinals debut, and the defense did what they had to do. Now, there are good players on the Cardinals defense like Budda Baker, Chandler Jones, and Isaiah Simmons, but I wouldn't consider them a top 3 to 5 defense in the NFL. Holding the 49ers to 20 points was a win in itself to start the year, as they averaged nearly 30 per game in 2019, so for a young team like the Cardinals, who were very much a media narrative-made team, to hold them to just 20 points was absolutely huge. They play the football team next week, and there's absolutely no reason they can't start out 2-0. DeAndre exceeded expectations in his Cardinals debut and is currently on pace for over 220 catches and over 2,400 receiving yards. A great week 1 for the Cardinals, and a bit of a concerning week 1 for the 49ers. And the next takeaway is the AFC still runs through Kansas City. The Chiefs Thursday night beat the Texans very handedly, and despite only winning by 14, the game was never really that close. At one point the score was 31-7, and keep in mind this was a game against a playoff team, and a team that went to the AFC divisional round last year at that, never really presented a challenge for Kansas City. The Chiefs called a very vanilla game plan, and they didn't really do anything too exotic for their standards, as we know they have all sorts of weapons to use with players like McCole Hardman and Tyreek Hill, aka the Legion of Zoom. They instead let Clyde Edwards-Helaire run the ball 25 times, and he averaged over 5 yards a carry in the process. They still put up 34 points, and from a fan standpoint, it honestly didn't seem like they did too much. Now, the Chiefs, like everyone else, have to ease their way into the season, and still have to work the kinks out in their armor, but offensively, there are very few, if any. And the Ravens played spectacular in their debut against the Browns, as they beat a division rival by 32 points, and I truly cannot wait to say these teams play in 2 weeks. But as of now, the AFC runs through Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And the next takeaway is Aaron Rodgers is 100% back to MVP form. He absolutely shredded the Vikings to a tune of 364 yards and 4 passing touchdowns, and there were absolutely no signs of slowing him or his favorite target Devontae Adams down. Not only that, but for people who may not know or just didn't watch the game, Rodgers was a Marquez Valdez-Scantling drop away from having over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns on the day. Rodgers said after Jordan Love was drafted that it would be, quote, a while, end quote, before he was going to start, and he very well could be on his own revenge tour in 2020. And maybe revenge tour isn't the right word, but more so prove the front office wrong, and that he still has plenty left in the tank, and that they were wrong to take Jordan Love before Rodgers' prime was over. Vikings fans should be worried for the rest of their season, as their corners looked awful, and were taken to school time and time again Sunday afternoon by the 2-time MVP. The Rodgers-Adams connection is without a doubt one of the best in football, as very rarely are these two not on the same page, and it was evident on Sunday. If the Packers play the way they did Sunday, then they will be a very tough team to beat, as they had over 500 yards of offense and controlled the ball for over 40 minutes of the game. They won 13 games in 2019 and are off to a very strong start, and couldn't have had a better start offense-wise. They gave up 34 points but kept their defense on the field for only 18 minutes, which will pay huge dividends later in the year. A terrific week 1 from Green Bay, and a perfect week 1 from the future first ballot Hall of Famer, Aaron Rodgers. And the next takeaway is that maybe we should slow the roll with Tom and the Bucs. Now, as we should expect with new quarterbacks to teams or new coaches to teams in 2020, especially with no preseason, there were going to be some adjustments to be made with playing at real game speed for the first time. However, for Tom at least, he looked off at times as the pass rush of the Saints was visibly getting to him, as there were a few throws that I didn't see what or who he was throwing to, and he didn't look like the normal Tom. Not only that, but he threw 2 interceptions, and while everyone does throw interceptions, the one to Marcus Williams was ugly. While everyone was excited for the potential of Tom on the Buccaneers, and the realization that they are hosting the Super Bowl this year, the hype became unprecedented and fairly quickly at that. Just because Tom is there doesn't mean the defense automatically improves to a top 5 defense with that, and I think we saw that on Sunday. Credit to the Bucs though, as they held all-world receiver Michael Thomas to just 3 catches for 17 yards. Now, I do think they'll improve throughout the year, but there will be initial growing pains for everyone on that roster. Tom is the GOAT for a reason, but even so, it will take him some time to adjust to everyone on that roster. A division title is still a lofty goal, as the Saints and Falcons will present challenges down the road, which we saw on Sunday. The Bucs are just 0-1 and are very much alive to be clear, but with no preseason, it's no surprise to me at least that they lost on the road to the Saints in Week 1. And the next takeaway is Russell Wilson may finally win an MVP. We all know Russ has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL now for some time, but on Sunday he truly played one of the best games of his career. He had as many incompletions as he did touchdowns, and his 2 top receivers, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, each had over 90 yards receiving. He targeted DK 8 times and connected on just 4 of them, meaning every other receiver he threw to or targeted was a completion. Now, I can't state enough how insane of a statistic that is, that every target for the Seahawks on Sunday that wasn't a DK Metcalf was a completion. And not surprisingly, the Seahawks put up 38 points, and their passing game looked as good as ever. Their run game, though, may be a cause for concern, as aside from Russell's 3 carries for 29 yards, they averaged just 3.2 yards per carry, and I don't have to tell you guys how bad that is. So while the passing game was about as close to perfect as one can get, the run game was far from that on Sunday. They play New England next Sunday night, so it will be interesting to see how they rebound against them. The Falcons' passing game looked solid, which is what I expect from Matt Ryan now, and he led the day with 450 passing yards. The Falcons had 3 players with at least 9 catches and 100 yards, so they were certainly clicking there. I do think this is the year we see Calvin Ridley take a huge step and become an elite receiver, as he had 130 yards and 2 touchdowns on Sunday. Julio was Julio, but I do think this is the year we see Calvin have over 70 catches and over 1,000 yards, and maybe, just maybe, even his first career Pro Bowl. And the final takeaway is that Cam Newton is back. The Patriots beat the Dolphins Sunday with a score of 21-11, and Cam Newton looked like himself again, which is something everyone, maybe with the exception of the rest of the AFC East, wanted to see. Cam completed nearly 79% of his passes, ran for 2 scores, and was a big reason why the Patriots won. The Patriots defense was also as advertised, even with some players opting out of the season, as they managed to intercept Ryan Fitzpatrick 3 times and gave up just 11 points. They held the Dolphins to just 3.2 yards per carry, and certainly looked like the Patriots defense from the beginning of last year again. Cam's accuracy was rightfully so a question, as for as good of a player as we've seen him to be, he's had spurts of his career where his accuracy is low compared to the rest of the league. Now, he obviously won't be able to keep up the accuracy from yesterday, but it would be nice to see him be more accurate than his career 59.6%, which is something that can happen in New England. We saw it yesterday, and there's no reason to think he can't sit between 65 and 68% for the course of a season. As mentioned during the Seahawks segment, the Patriots travel to Seattle next week, and we will see both teams tested in what will be a fun Sunday night game to watch. Cam versus Russ will certainly be a great matchup, and from what we saw Sunday from both guys, it should be a great game. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you ever have a video suggestion, please let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.